Welcome to the Heir Flow Podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Thomas, and this is the place where kingdom heirs go to be informed and inspired. So sit back, relax, and flow with me. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Heir Flow Podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Thomas. It's just grateful to be back doing what I love to do and hopefully inspiring others to achieve the highest quality of life possible. Today's episode is one that's near and dear to my heart, and I say near and dear because, I've been doing a lot of reflection. I think for those that listen to me on a regular, I appreciate your support. And I thank you all for doing that. And, some of the feedback I've gotten, I definitely appreciate that. But I think one of the things for me that was challenging in these gaps that I've been having is really focusing on the passion and the why and the purpose of doing this podcast. I titled this episode "Man in the Mirror," and I think it's really just me reflecting and just sharing that reflection with everybody, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who can definitely relate to what I'm going through, what I've been going through, what I'm talking about today. But it's really the whole mindset that, growing up, I always heard, it's me against the world. It's me against the world. One of my favorite rappers, Tupac, always says, he speaks about, it's me against the world. He's got a song and an album named that. But when I really started thinking about it as I've gotten older, I'm gonna be 45 in a few weeks. And, one of the things that I really started figuring out in life is that it's really just me versus me. I mean, when you really think about it, my job and my role is to continue to get better every day, become a better version of myself. That's what God put me on this earth to do, to continue to get better. It's continuous improvement. And sometimes that continuous improvement, it comes at a cost. There's some sacrifice in that. And you find out some things about yourself, some things that you've got to deal with to get better. But that's the goal, is to continuously get better. And so when you think about Man in the Mirror, you think about the reflection. Yeah, it's again, one of my favorite Michael Jackson songs. But it's really just taking ownership and accountability and just saying, I'm responsible for the life that I want. I'm responsible for the life that I desire to have, and seeking, that purpose, that passion, so that you could live life to the fullest and walk in what you were called to do. So when it comes to this podcast, one of the reasons why I think I got challenged in the beginning, it was like, I was excited about it. I was so excited to be able to do something. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and you have these grandiose plans of, I'm gonna have all these people listening, and it's just gonna blow up to be this big thing. And the thing about it is, it still can and it will, but the thing that changed was me. God never changed his mind when he gave me the idea and the vision to do a podcast. My wife saw the vision and she purchased equipment for me to be able to do it. And I started off strong. The challenge is always, understanding the purpose and the intent behind something. See, I was looking at numbers and I was looking at, thinking, oh, everybody's going to get this. But the one thing that I learned and that I'm learning is that the things that I'm sharing is for anybody, but everybody won't get it. It won't be for everybody. It's for anybody, but everybody won't do it. And it's the same thing when you think about just things in life. You think about just, from a spiritual standpoint, your walk with Christ. For those who are Christians, it's one of those things where God's word, God's love is for everybody. I mean, it's for anybody, I should say, but everybody won't get there. Heaven is for anybody, but everybody won't get there. You can choose, you can choose to do it, and some are going to choose not to. Some people are going to choose to listen to the things that I say, and they're going to either respond by listening to them and being inspired by them, or they're not. I think what happens is I lost sight, and I tend to lose sight on what the purpose is to try to fulfill, certain things that take me outside of what the intent was, what the purpose was. See, my goal was always to inspire, but it never meant, God didn't say inspire everybody. Jesus couldn't save everybody. But anybody could be saved. For me, it's understanding that I can't fix the world's problems, but I can inspire. May not be everybody, but I can inspire people. And even if I'm inspiring one or two here or there, if I'm giving hope to people, if I'm giving information to people to help them live their lives better, then I've done my assignment. And, sometimes that's where I think I lost the passion, because I tried to look beyond the original intent of what I was doing with this podcast. And it makes sense. I had to sit back and do some reflection. I thought that I needed to hit, these numbers. I should have this many subscribers. I should have this many people listening to it. Like, people should be doing this and that. And I had to realize it's not necessarily for everybody, and be okay with that. And when I get feedback from people, again, you listen to the feedback and you appreciate the feedback, but you also have to have the artistic and the freedom of expression and artistic integrity around what you do, to say, I appreciate that, and some of the things I'll take in, but ultimately, why am I doing this? A lot of the reasons why I sit and podcast, and I'm using my podcast as an example, because I think a lot of people deal with this and things that they do. It may not be podcasting. It could be the work you do that's outside of your day-to-day job that you're just passionate about, but the job pays your bills. It's looking at those things and saying to yourself, like, man, if I stay focused on what the intent was, and understanding what my talent is and what my passion is, this isn't a job. This shouldn't be work. This shouldn't be sacrifice. To me, when I do this podcast, I realize more and more that I like to inspire people. I like to help people. I like to get people to a place of enjoying life. I like to inform people. I like that. I'm passionate about that. And so that's why I did the podcast. But also it's sort of therapy for me. This is therapeutic for me to come and talk, speak to people, to my listeners, and then also to have people on here and talk to them and talk about their journey and their story, again, to get inspiration for myself, but also to inspire others. But it doesn't mean that it's going to inspire everybody. And so that's really what the message is. When I talk about man in the mirror, it's really, what are those things that inspire you? What are those things that drive you each day to want to that you would do it whether you got paid for it or not? I hear a lot of times, what you're passionate about, that's going to be what's going to provide for you. Walking in your passion, walking in, God-given talent. People take that lightly. You can make so much money in your job, and you can do that in your sleep, but you're not passionate about it. It pays the bills. And start figuring out, well, how can I do those things that I'm passionate about, that it's not working? I'll do it every day, but how can I capitalize off of that? And for me, it's sometimes it's, obviously, you want to be able to provide and have flexibility and have the freedom to make your schedule to do things the way you want to do them. And as I've shared before, and as other people, working a 9 to 5 is not necessarily that for everybody, but it depends on your passion. I know people who are educators, who are very passionate about education, very passionate about what they do. And for them, it's not work. They thrive on helping to educate and bring education and help improve the education system. So for them, it's not work. When we get up and we say, I'm so tied to my job that I can't function and do anything else, that's not a good thing. And I can't blame my company for that. A lot of times we get salty at our jobs because it's like, man, this is taken away from me being able to do my passion. Well, the job is doing what it's supposed to do. It's you do the work and they provide you with a salary, and you've accepted what that salary is through the process. And if you're not happy about that, then, you have conversations, you try to do what you can. You can work to improve, to get a different position, to gain more money, or you figure out what's my exit strategy. But it's ownership, it's things that you do for yourself. It's taking that responsibility to say, these are the things I need to do to be better. This is what I want for my life, my family. And, again, I go back to different episodes where I talk about, being a victim and having that victim mentality. The man in the mirror challenges that victim mentality. I used to have that victim mentality, especially early in my career. I was always frustrated, upset. I was angry about things. I was always like, man, it sucks. And they did this, and it's always they and them. And, it's never about, well, what did I do? Or what is my reaction? How do I react to things? Am I reacting to things appropriately? Am I giving my all to the position to make it better? Or am I just going through the motions? Am I just accepting what's happening? And then when you don't like a situation, you leave, right? You leave and you go do something else. But it's the same thing. You run into the same thing over and over again, and you wonder, why am I dealing with this? Well, maybe that's where God is trying to test you and grow you from there. Why do we go? I mean, I've worked at, what I do from, in software development, and within the confines of software development, I've been to different companies, and I've pretty much experienced some of the same things across the companies, it's not specific to any one thing. And then you sit there and you get frustrated. You say to yourself, like, why am I going through the same thing over and over again? And then you have, I have those aha moments where it's like, that's God trying to tell me that, that this is a growth area. This is an area that you got to figure out. And then when I figure that out, I get to a place of getting some level of success within that company. But it's also the other thing that, am I passionate about what I do? I keep looking at, I've done skills assessments. I've done, gift assessments, I should say. And one of the things that always goes back to is wanting to help people. And my career, some of my fondest things when I started being a people manager and leader is helping people. It's helping develop careers, helping people get to the place that they want to get to in their career, whether it's with the company or just in general. And I truly have a passion for that. So it's like, why don't I just keep focusing on that? Most of my listeners know I've got my wife and I started a clothing company. God gave me a vision for a clothing brand, Heir Flow. And I've had that brand for, about 3 years now. And, I look back on it, I'm like, have I had some sales? Yeah, I've had some sales. It's been okay, but I haven't put the time and effort into it. I really haven't focused on it like I should, because I took that mindset like, man, everybody is supposed to be supporting me. Everybody is supposed to be, all my people that I'm connected with, they're supposed to do this and that. But that's not what the vision. God gave me a vision to inspire through the brand. It has a meaning to it, but my brand may not be for everybody. Anybody can buy it. Anybody can wear it. Anybody can support it, but everybody's not going to do it. So I've got to take a step back to say, I didn't fail. I did what God told me to do and what God gave me the vision to do, but I've also got to trust that God has given me the resources and the favor to make it what it needs to be. And then I got to go back to, again, the original intent. Why am I doing these things? Why am I sitting here, talking, to a microphone with a, recording on a MacBook, and, I've got this Rodecaster Pro, podcast board that we purchased. Why am I doing this? Why did I invest in this? Because there was a vision that was given, and I have a purpose, and I like doing this. This podcast was never supposed to be work. But I just go back and say, how many things in our lives do we have that we prayed for, or we know that we have a true passion we love to do. How many of those things have we suppressed or have we stopped doing because it became work for us? And then kind of take a step back and figure out, well, at what point in time did it become work? At what point in time did the fun go out of it? Or, like I said, for me, it's therapy. When did that go away from it? It's when I tried to focus and take it away from the original intent. And that's what I keep going back to. Like I love this. I love to just go out there and continue to see people do well. Like I truly have a heart to see people do well. I have a heart to see people go, have redemption stories, to see people, grow, to see those light bulbs go off, to hear feedback like, man, you inspire me. Like I didn't realize, my own little brother, he tells me like, man, when I'm working or doing this or that, I put your podcast on, it's inspired me. He called me like, man, when you going to do another podcast? I be listening. I listen to your episodes. I didn't even realize that, for a while until he told me that. I'm like, man, I didn't even know. My brother and I, we're on good terms. I love him. We don't talk all the time, but just to know that, the things that I say inspire him. It's that to me, is enough for me to want to continue to do what I'm doing. I know that there's somebody listening to me. There's somebody who's getting something. People sometimes will say, Rickey, you're a little long-winded. Well, how can you be long-winded with a podcast? And I had to take a step back. Did I get the point across that I wanted to get to? And it's just a podcast. You can stop it, you can rewind it, you can fast forward it, you can do whatever you want to do with it. But did I get out what I wanted to get out with that? And so I took the feedback, but at the same time, I'm like, when I sit down and I have these topics, I'm not randomly coming up with this. This isn't AI generated stuff. I'm not going out there to Chat GPT. And yes, I use Chat GPT for certain things. But, and for those that don't know, go look it up. But I've used AI technology in different avenues. But everything that I bring forth is from the heart. I may get some data points from here and there. I may obviously do research about certain topics that I speak about. But again, it's things that I'm coming, from my heart. This isn't just, I'm freestyling it. I'm this is things that this episode came from just me yesterday. Like I need to do an episode, but it comes out of a desire to share, not just really give updates of why I haven't been here and why I haven't been doing episodes, like I normally have. But it's just more of one of those things to sit back and say, I too have gone through things. I too have struggles. I too have challenges. But I have to do some introspect. I do some kind of reflection and think introspectively to how I'm controlling the things that I know God has given me and blessed me to be in charge of. Me personally and my personal growth and development. The family that I have. Am I spending time with them? Am I focusing on the things that truly matter? Like really doing an self-evaluation. That is important. It's important to me. And I think it's really helped me to put things in perspective. Stop focusing on the outwardly things that you can't control. There's a lot of things that I want to see get better, and all I can do is pray for things to improve, but I have to continue to be true to me and continue to find ways how I can use my, the platform that God gives me, the vision that I get, and then the passion and knowledge that I have to continue to grow people. Again, I may not be the person that's going to incite change in the world, but I can incite change in those that I'm connected to and have a small community. And then they can spread that out into their sphere of influence, and it grows and develops and festers from. I say festers, 'cause that sounds bad, but it continues to spread, into a way where I make an impact. The people I impact make an impact and inspire. The people I inspire, they go and inspire others, and it's just a domino effect. And if I can make a small percentage of change in this world for improvement, then. And that's what I'm called to do, then that's what I'm called to do. Some people are supposed to be out in front of the cameras and inspire people on a broader stage. Some people, do community inspiration. They do small. Some people just within their family, they inspire people. Everybody's got an assignment, and staying in my lane is where I have to make sure that I do. Again, staying true to myself. I can always look at different people, and trust me, I've done it. I'll look at something and be like, man, I can do that. If they can do that, I know I can do it. If they can get on the internet or get on social media and they can do these things, I can do it, and I can. There's a lot of stuff that I can do, but it doesn't mean that that's what I'm supposed to do. What am I supposed to be spending my time on? What is really connected to my vision? Because when I start stepping outside of that, that's when things get complicated. That's when it feels like there's a weight on my shoulder. And that's where the podcast felt like, this is too much. And it wasn't supposed to be heavy. There's some work that has to be done to make it, but it wasn't supposed to be heavy. It's supposed to be joyous. My clothing brand and pushing that, like, that was joyous. I had a company, that I did called Kingdom Designs, where I did custom made shirts, and I stopped doing things for that company because it got to be, I still do some things on the side. I won't say I stopped doing it, but I stopped pushing it because it wasn't fun anymore. And I think it was just because I got away from, I just got away from what the original intent was. And I didn't even realize, and I think I told the story before, I didn't, the custom design t-shirt company that I had before, that wasn't even my thing. That was my wife's vision. But when I started helping her and bring it to life, it just took on a life of its own within me. And, I was like, man, I really like creating cool things like this with my hands. And I still do. I still do a few things here and there, but doing research, figuring out the tools you need, and then getting that stuff and then starting it. I mean, I've got a house full of, I got things now, that probably don't get used like they should, vinyl cutters and heat presses and, software and all this other stuff. But it was a labor of love. And so, I invested, my wife invested, we invested in each other's visions. And so, that's when that you have something that you're good at, and people would tell you that. My wife and I just had a conversation the other day, and she told me, she was like, Rickey, you're really good at interviewing. You're really good at, she always tells me I'm good at speaking, and sometimes I think she's kind of speaking a little facetiously because, her and my kids, they say, Dad, you can be long-winded. You say a lot of good stuff, but you can just be long-winded. And I'm like, I take it, I know they're being funny, but there's truth behind that, right? I'm like, just say what you got to say. But sometimes, my heart just pours out and I don't stop. I just keep going. And that's why I like this podcast format. I'm not trying to sit here, necessarily for 2 hours and just do this, do that. Could I break things up? Yeah, I can. Some topics you just want to get it out the way and hopefully, hey, people taking a long drive somewhere, they got a long break and they can just listen to it. I never set a time that I wanted to do for each episode. I never said, I wanted to keep each episode, at this point. I wanted to do 30 minutes or an hour or keep it under an hour. I never really set a time frame. I just wanted to get to the point of making sure that the episode addressed what I wanted to, the topic, whatever the topic was for that episode, I addressed those things. And so again, I did listen to feedback. I have feedback from people who actually listen. So of course I'm going to take that serious. And I did, and I still do. I mean, for people that listen, they probably noticed, my episodes started to come down in time. And it was just me making sure that at least I stick to the point. I keep moving forward. When I do interviews, I want to be respectful to people's time. I ask them, hey, give me 30 minutes. Give me 30 minutes. Let's do the interview. We can do it in 30 minutes. Some of them go longer. I did the interview with Chef Gerard Wiltshire. I could have probably broke that up in a couple things, but he was just sharing his story, and it was so good. It was like a 2-hour or something episode. But I got a lot of feedback, like, man, I didn't even, people that know him that are connected with us, we both have, mutual connections. They were like, man, I didn't even realize all that stuff. And so, it served its purpose. And I don't want to lose focus on that. I want to stay true to what the purpose of this episode, or what these episodes are for. So that's really the reflection piece of what I've got. And I want everybody to, everybody who's listening to understand what you have, what God has put into you may not be for everybody. Anybody can get it. Anybody can be inspired. Anybody could be touched, informed, whatever from you. But it's not going to be for everybody. Everybody's not going to react. Everybody's not going to be positive. With all the good that Martin Luther King Jr. did, he still wasn't for everybody. But anybody could take part in his peaceful civil rights march. Anybody could have benefited from what he was teaching, his knowledge. Some did, some didn't. Same thing in school. Everybody, what the teacher gives, the notes that they give, the lessons that they have, the knowledge that they try to share, it's for everybody. It's for anybody can get that knowledge, but anybody that takes the class can get the knowledge, but everybody's not going to get it. The internet, there's a plethora of so many areas of pockets of knowledge and things that are factual evidence that you can go out there and search. Everybody has access to it. Everybody does, but everybody won't. Anybody can do it, but everybody won't. And so that any and everybody, it's one of those things you look at. Anybody can do it, but everybody won't. You won't get 100%. You won't get 100% participation with things at work. You won't get 100% buy-in with things that you want to do. But that's where you have to go back and look at yourself and come back and be true to yourself. Yeah, you'll have a circle of a sphere of influence, a circle of influence that would, help keep you grounded in things and grounded in certain realities. People who truly know you, and they will give you feedback and advice. But when it's all said and done, you have to be the one that's got to stand on what you believe, what you feel is right, what you feel that you were put here to do, what you feel you're passionate on. And don't let anybody take that from you. Don't let anybody suppress your artistic abilities or whatever it is. Now, I shared with my youngest son just yesterday. We were driving back. He went to work out with me. And I don't know why God put it on my heart to just tell him, he's getting ready to go into 7th grade. I'm like, man, it's exciting times. You're in junior high school. You big time now. Man, you'll be in high school in a couple of years. And I just started to pour into him and just tell him, be comfortable, be comfortable in your skin, but don't be too uncomfortable to grow, because you got to grow and you're going to grow out of that skin and you're going to continue to move forward, but be happy with what God has given you. I tell him a lot, and I've told him before, his brother and sister have always been, from a basketball standpoint, they play sports. They've been involved in athletic type things. And he, my youngest, he just hasn't been one of the ones that gravitated towards that. He's more of an intellectual, and all my kids are smart, but he's, he just was more the intellectual. He's the thinker. He's the, he does research. He's just that kid. And I told him, you're special, and be okay with that. It's okay to be a nerd. It's okay to be somebody. I would rather somebody call you smart than somebody call you dumb or say you're say you're smart or say you're a thug or something like that. Like, I want people to look at you and say, I'll be proud of you. They don't have to say, well, you're an athlete. I want them to say you're smart, you're a good kid, very intellectual. Be who you are. And you'll learn that as you get older, and you start to and your friends and people you're around mature and you mature, that's what matters. I remember going to school and, you had the cool kids, you had the people who were trying to be cool kids, you had the people who were considered the nerds, you had, and the people in between. And I used to always pride myself on, I was cool with the cool folks, but I was cool with the people that was considered the nerds, outcasts. I tried to treat people the same all around. I had moments where you try to fit into a certain group, but you just didn't fit into that group. You tried to fit in over here, you just didn't fit in. You got to be okay being custom made. There's no pattern for you. You're custom. You're one of one. And so I shared that with him. I share with my older son, I've shared with all my kids, for growing, you got to be uncomfortable. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And it's funny because that came up at my job, just recently. We're going through so many changes, but they're changes for the better. It's that whole continuous improvement mindset. And the conversations that we have is, hey, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That is really the only way to grow. You're not going to grow. Your growth you're going to stunt your growth. You're going to limit your growth if you don't get yourself to be uncomfortable. I mean, that's just the only way you do it. You think of a snake, and they outgrow their skin and they shed it. And when they shed it, they turn out, pretty colors and all this other stuff, this new skin, but they got to grow. And unless they shed that skin, and I'm sure it's uncomfortable, it may be painful to them a bit. I don't know. But they have to grow. They've got to continue to get better, and not necessarily put up walls. Because, again, people put up walls and that can stunt your growth. You have to be guarded, but not siloed off to the point where you can't continue to expand yourself, expand your horizons, expand your knowledge. So, it's been an interesting week. It's been an interesting few days of just, me looking back and saying, okay, I got to reset myself. I got to get myself back focused. A lot of times people do these types of things at the end of the year. You got some people who are disciplined. They do check-ins on themselves, at different points. They may do quarterly. They do kind of in June, all right, we're halfway through the year. Where are we at? And you may not, or you may have started off the year, you had, again, people do the New Year's resolutions. I stopped doing them. But really having, do you have a vision board? I'm going to be honest. I had one. I had a digital one. I took it down. Actually, I took it down probably after the start of the year because it was things from last year. But there's things that have been, I go back and reflect on the things I had on there, and some of those things have been checked off. A big thing was checked off for me. My wife, she heard from God and she pulled the trigger on something that I have been looking at for years, and she got the message, and God told her to do it, and so I'm not going to disclose it. I'll let her, I'll get the okay from her to do that. But again, just excited about just hearing this that God provided that. And there's things that I want to do for her that, man, it's just, I think I got invigorated more when I saw what I wanted come in, because my prayer was that, that I would, I want her to get the desires, the things that I wanted to do for her. I wanted that to happen before I got mine. And she turned around and God gave her the message to do it for me. And so I know that God's going to do it for her. He's going, and whether it's using me or however, it's going to happen for her because she obeyed his word. And I believe that. But again, coming back to just that internal, just being honest with myself, having that relationship, really focusing on the things that matter to me, that drive me, seeing my family be successful, that drives me. But also just, again, taking time to look at what things can I do to make that better? What things have I done to make it worse? It's the flip side of it. What are those things? How does my family view me? Am I helping or hindering them? Am I making my family better? Because if you're not willing to ask yourself that and look in the mirror and say those things, then how are you truly going to grow? Because if you're not, then you're just going to be defensive to everything. You're going to be offended by everything, and that's not what we're supposed to do. You're supposed to have people who are around you that you allow to pour into you. And that's important. Having a mentor is so important. It's very important. Who do you have to hold you accountable? I mean, I thank God I got my wife, but I have other people in my life. I still have my father. I've got uncles. I've got people that if I need to get a reality check, I can go to them and they know me enough to be able to speak into me. And that's some people don't have that all the time, or they don't realize they have that, or they haven't gotten to the place of maturity where they seek that. They want to be very guarded and have the perception of them, kind of be structured in a way where, it's essentially protecting and guarding you, and keeping people from really knowing who you are. And I think that's a challenge. If you don't have people that can hold you accountable, that you're okay with holding you accountable. Again, accountability partners are a great thing. And, even outside of, like I said, my wife, but having somebody who can check me and say, man, you're not doing your wife right. Somebody that you can trust. And you got to be careful with that. But again, it's all about you. It's all about your development, being the best person that you can be, focusing on those things that you care about, the things that you can control, the things that you are passionate about. Like that is so important. Life is too short. It is too short. And for me, that is, and again, another driver for this is understanding, like, I don't have time to waste. I've got a lot of things that I still want to achieve in my lifetime. And I can't stay focused on those things that I can't control. I can't stay focused on past things that have happened, and I've been forgiven, or I forgave the person, or whatever the situation is, and I've got to move on. And, if people hold grudges, if people hold grudges against you and you've tried to make it right, you've done your part. God will make sure everything is healed in the right direction. If you've done wrong or somebody's done you wrong, at this point, I'm at a point in my life where I don't have time for petty beefs. I'm going to focus on the people who love me and who I love, and those relationships that God has showed me I need to repair. And at least if it doesn't get to the place where we improve, at least there's a common ground of love and respect, and we can respectfully not be around each other, but there's love and respect there, and we move on. There's peace in the situation. That's all I'm about. Positive energy, and having that peace. And a lot of that is fed into just being passionate about the things that I'm passionate about. Focus on those things. This podcast, again, I'm circling back around with this because I want to close out, but this podcast was about, it was a labor of love and passion. This is what I like to do. It wasn't for me to come on here and gossip. There's enough people gossiping. There's enough people, doing the petty takes and petty reviews and all of that. And, that's their thing. And I guess they're getting the success that they want. They're getting the attention they want. Some of them are very successful, and they're getting paid a lot of money. And the interesting thing is, and it's this, again, kind of a transparent moment, I get challenged. I'm like, man, I'm sitting up here, giving people knowledge, inspiring, bringing people on here that have stories of just great inspiration and triumph. Like, how come I'm not blowing up? How come I'm not getting all kind of views, and I can monetize my podcast and, monetize my brand and all that stuff. But these people get on here acting ignorant, and people like that. And I'm like, well, there's an audience for that. There's always an audience for that. And again, that's their thing. I don't know, and it could be a blessing for them for what they wanted out of life. My focus is not just, money. I want to be able to take care of my family. Obviously, I want to, be able to provide for my family in the best way possible. But I'm using my gifts and talents for where it should be. There's people who are very talented, who really know how to do different things. There's chefs out there. There are people who are great speakers, great actors, and they use their platform to do other things because it's hot, instead of focusing on what the God-given talents that they have. And I mean, that's their thing. There's so many things you can do to get views, and I understand algorithms and all the stuff that's out there, but I just figured out that for me, I just got to stay true to who I am, and, let God keep running with the vision. I'm not going to bastardize my gifts and put myself in a position where, I'm showing like I'm ungrateful for where God has taken me, just because I can get a few more likes, I can get a few more views, I can get, this, that, or the other. I'd rather be true me than to settle and try to, go to a platform where I can tear people down. I mean, because anybody can do it, right? Anybody can go out there and I can just sit here and constantly just tear somebody down, start beefs that are not real just because they sell. I can put on a reality TV show, and I can do so many other things that other people do, but is that really who I am? I know people say it sounds cliche. It's all, just keeping it real, trying to be, but that's really all I can try to do is be the best version of me, be who I am. Because when I step outside of that, I'm not going to be successful. I may be successful from worldly standards, but I'm not going to be successful for who I am. And that's what drives me. And that's what makes things to be more work than to really have to be joyous, to be happy and to really focus on, what I'm passionate about, because I'm trying to do things just because that's what everybody else wants me to do versus doing what I like to do and what God has gifted me the ability to do. So I'm going to continue to focus on that. And like I said, my goal is, and what I'm pledging is to continue to bring inspiration in different formats, whether it's interviewing other people or just talking through, what God gives me to talk to. It's going to inspire. It's going to help somebody. And whoever that person is, those people are, I hope that they continue to inspire. I hope to be the difference maker of, me encouraging somebody, to start that business, or encouraging somebody to build that relationship, or encourage somebody to start investing, or whatever it is, or just encourage somebody to know that they're loved. And guess what? You have a purpose here, and stop them from, committing suicide or doing, performing things that will hurt themselves. That to me is what's important, to telling that person, God forgives you, repent for what you've done and move forward. Your life matters. That's what I want to be known for. And that's what I want to make sure that everybody understands, that I'm, I try to look for the good in everybody as best as possible. I just, one of the things that I think about a lot is, you hear people, you hear people talk about, or, Medea, I'll just use Medea, for example, Tyler Perry, he used the quote, people tell you how they really are. People show you who they are, believe them. And it's always used in a negative connotation, because it's always like, people telling you, showing you that they're bad people, so you need to believe them, but it doesn't always have to be negative. People show you that they're kind, people show you that they're this or that. You can believe that too, and people slip up, people make mistakes, and they need to own their mistakes. But at the end of the day, I try to look for the good in everybody if possible. And I fall short. I'm not going to lie. I fall short. And I have preconceived notions of certain things, and I have to step back and realize, like, that's not right though. I need to fix that attitude and that mentality, because everybody has a past. Everybody has a past. And, if you still wake up every day, you got a future, and that future can be whatever you make it and whatever you want it to be, if you desire to continue to move forward and make things right and build the life that you're supposed to live. So that's what being an heir is about. That's what this podcast is about. That's what, this episode is about. Look at the man and woman in the mirror and figure out what are those things that you need to do to be better, and start, you hear people say 1% each day, whatever that is, whatever you can do each day to get better, whether it's waking up in the morning and just taking a fraction of your time to pray, because most people, don't make the time to do it. Start with a little bit of time. You find out that you'll start getting more and more time, because God will start to redeem time and make things happen. And you start to feel different. You start to see things different. You start to feel more positive about life. And that's really when you start getting to the place of, living life, not just surviving. A lot of people out here are surviving. God didn't put us here to survive. He put us out here to live and live life more abundantly. So as heirs, that's what we're supposed to do. Live life to the fullest, live out your passions, live out your dreams, inspire, help others. And that's what being the heir is about. So continue to do that. I love you guys, and flow on. Until next time.